Hey everybody, this is Sheriff Tim Carter, and today I've got some special guests with me here at the Source. It is Brian Barbour, a friend of mine in Rotary, and Steve Morlan, also a friend of mine in Rotary. Brian is in Rotary we have these different areas. We've talked about the district, and now we're going to talk a little bit about areas, but Brian is the Area 1 governor, and Steve is the area governor of Area 2. Area 1 is the area that encompasses, make sure I'm right about this, Brian, it's Front Royal, Warren County, Clark County, Frederick County, and Winchester.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, and let's see, Brian is a member of the Warren County Rotary Club. Am I right
yes,
about
I am.
Right. Steve is a member of my home club, Woodstock Rotary. And Area 2 encompasses basically Shenandoah County, Luray, and Broadway-Timberville.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So, well, guys, anything you want to say about, yourselves or your clubs or anything like that, or how long you've been in Rotary before we get started? Brian, I'll start with you if you have anything you want to.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you, sir, and it's a pleasure to be with you and your listeners today. I've been in Rotary since 2009. And I can honestly say it's been an amazing journey. I have friends not only just in this area, but throughout the state, throughout the region, and even around the world because of it. It's an amazing organization. And I'll be perfectly honest, I can't imagine what my life would be like today if it wasn't for joining Rotary. But no, I'm very passionate about Rotary and love it very much. I am an educator. I am now in my 18th year of education between public and private. And I am currently in my first year working for Frederick County Public Schools. And I have the joy of teaching seventh graders U.S. history at James Wood Middle School. So you can imagine with everything going on these days, teaching U.S. history, middle school students, it seriously is, it's a challenge with everything, COVID, et cetera, but it's wonderful. I love my job. I love coming to work with these students and working for the school system.
Well, it's great to have you again here, Brian. And I know, Steve, you're also an educator, a former educator.
Yes, I'm retired. I had 32 years in education in Greenville, South Carolina. I was a high school choral director and then went into administration, retired as a high school principal. And Rotary was something that had a very strong presence in that area, so I've known about Rotary all of the time. But it wasn't until after I retired and moved back here to Woodstock, I'm from Woodstock originally, that I had a chance to meet with some fellow neighbors and friends who are in the Rotary Club of Woodstock. They invited me to some of their meetings, and my sponsor said, Steve, this is the best thing you can do with your retirement years. Yeah. That has certainly been true. The ability for service is tremendous.
Right. I agree with you, Steve. Guys, I think we talked a little bit about your areas, unless you want to go into any more detail about that, Brian, Area 1.
Well, I mean, just that with Area 1, I mean, the one thing that's unique about our Rotary district, and I think, Steve, and you would agree with me on this, we have one of the largest geographical districts within Rotary. I mean, our district stretches Virginia into Tennessee.
Right.
And I mean, I'm at the most northern part of the district because, as you said, it's Frederick County, Clark County, Warren County, and we have 6 Rotary clubs in our area, some that are as high as 165 in members, and one club which only has around 20 members. But our district stretches all the way down into Tennessee. But we have the Shenandoah River, of course, City of Winchester, Berryville, and Front Royal in Area 1.
Right. Right. And I guess Winchester is the larger club in your area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
165 members.
Right. How about Area 2, Steve? You want to talk about that any?
Yes, Area 2 runs up and down Route 11 in Shenandoah County, sort of encompasses all of the string of pearls of towns in the valley. Strasburg, Woodstock, Mount Jackson, Edinburgh, Newmarket, and we also have Luray and Broadway-Timberville as part of Area 2. We have just around 185 total members within Area 2 itself.
Right. Well, guys, I know I realize the COVID-19 pandemic was a challenge for many families and employers in our region and throughout the state. And can you tell us how challenging it was for you and how you try to motivate clubs within your area to stay active, not just from participating and being members, but actually providing service to their communities? Brian, I'll start with you.
Of course, the one thing that I can definitely say is, I mean, there were a lot of fears, and there still are some fears that are out there. But the one thing that I told to all of my presidents was this: the key word is flexibility. That when it comes to providing service within these times, what are ways that you and your club members can be comfortable or find ways that are comfortable to get out there? What may work for the Rotary Club of Clark County may not work for the Rotary Club of Winchester, which may not work for my Rotary Club Warren County. And that's okay. That is fine. The one thing that I find that's amazing about Rotary is that every single club does have its own dynamic and its own character. And so with that, I just stress to them the point of flexibility, the ability to find ways, be creative as to how you can contribute to your community. And if that means you're basically cooking meals at home and then dropping them off to a church for a food drive or for some type of soup kitchen or something like that, that is fine. Even if it's just your club members do, like a whip round for money and then donate it to a local organization like United Way or a food bank, you're still helping. So
Right.
Flexibility is just key. Be safe, but be flexible. There's
Right.
no one way to give service.
Right. How about you? How about you, Steve?
I would agree with everything Brian said. One of the key features of Rotary is beyond the service and what have you to the community is the fellowship that we enjoy at our weekly meetings. And it's something that all of the clubs have missed. But with everyone else, school systems and what have you, we have learned to work with Zoom and other organizations or other platforms that will allow us to continue to meet and actually see one another, even though it's on the small screen. But little by little, clubs are finding ways to get back together now that we're this far into the pandemic and the vaccinations are so readily available. And some clubs are beginning to meet in person, again, following CDC and state guidelines. It is a little more difficult for some of the larger clubs simply because of a facility to hold that many people.
Right.
But generally speaking, we're beginning to move back into person-to-person contact as much as we possibly can safely.
Mm-hmm. Guys, and something came to mind as you were speaking, Steve. One of the things I noticed about Rotary when I got involved in it is it was very email-centric. It was very Zoom-centric. So when this happened, the pandemic happened, you didn't have the in-person meetings. You didn't have that personal contact. But one of the strengths I think that we had, at least within our district, was that we had those relationships already built. They were strong relationships, and I think it actually carried over during all the difficulties of the pandemic. It's like Brian said, we had to be flexible, but because we had that strong base there in the beginning and already had that that connectivity, I think it made it easier for people to be flexible.
Absolutely. I recall as we first began our Zoom meetings, just right as the pandemic hit, everyone was still excited to be able to see one another, talk with one another, and that's an important part of it. Our board meetings have been held on Zoom, so we've been able to maintain the primary focus of the clubs, and that's service to the community.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about service, Brian, I know the motto of Rotary is service above self. How do you think the clubs in Area 1 did in fulfilling this ideal?
I really think that the clubs in Area 1 have done a phenomenal job with that, because I have been or have received comments open to different members of the various clubs, and have all been just kind of like, we realize that some of us are in comfortable positions, but we really want to help individuals. There are many people out there within our district that are less fortunate than us, and we want to get out there. We want to serve. And we've done things involving everything from medical to food, transportation, you name it. All of the clubs in Area 1 have found a way to get out there and truly serve their fellow man and serve the people in our areas that are less fortunate than many of ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I would say that our clubs have done a first-rate job in doing that.
Mm-hmm. Feel the same way there, Steve?
Absolutely. The pandemic has certainly shown an awful large need. The need has always been there, but the need has increased during the pandemic itself. And one of the functions of Rotary during our either morning or evening or lunch meetings is that we purchase a meal for ourselves during that meeting. And many members have continued to send that money into their local clubs, which in turn went back out to other needs areas such as local Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, mm-hmm. Luke's Backpack, things of that nature, so that we could help continue to support the community.
Mm-hmm. Brian, many of our listeners want to know what projects that Rotary clubs were able to undertake and how they've been successful during the course of the year. Can you highlight a couple of or a few projects there in Area 1 that you can recall?
Yeah, I mean, all of the clubs within Area 1 have done something in regards to food, mm-hmm. food pantries, and things along those lines. Mm-hmm. But two other things that clubs have done, which is service above self, but also has helped the local community. One was by the Rotary Club of Frederick County, was a wood blitz, in which there are many people within our area that still depend on wood as their heating source. Some people even still depend on wood as their cooking source. And so the Rotary Club of Frederick County always has this wood blitz that they were worried because of COVID they weren't able to do it, where they go out, they get a bunch of logs, a bunch of lumber, they cut it up, they load up a bunch of trucks, and then they deliver the wood to those families that they know need it or contacted the club. So they were able to still do that and provide that essential need to families. Now, they didn't have as many members as normally would come out or family members as normally come out, but they still were able to do it, and it was still a success. And another event that happened recently, and it's kind of funny, my wife, when she heard about it, said, I wish we lived in Clark County, because the Rotary Club of Clark County, if you think about it, with Easter, there were a lot of limitations on what could be done for children during Easter because of the pandemic. I have one son that will be 3 in a couple of weeks and another one that is now about a 1.5-year-old. And so my wife and I we were thinking about how are we going to celebrate Easter with our kids. Well, the Rotary Club of Clark County did a fundraiser where you tell us where you live and we'll bring the eggs and put them out in your own front yard or your backyard. Wow. Just tell us where to put them. Yeah. And so they did that for families. Now, you had to live in Clark County, which when my wife was like, why couldn't we live in Clark County? But, that was a service that, yes, it served the community, but it also served the children, so that those children within Clark County could still have, your normal some kind of Easter egg hunt. Yeah. And it was also a fundraiser, or got their name out in the community. So those were two things that clubs did, which I'd like to highlight, that really showed what they could do with everything that was going on. That really stood out.
Yeah, and I tell you, that's why that's one of the reasons why I love Rotary so much. You hear about those unique projects like that, and you're like, wow, and it never came to my mind, but there was somebody doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, how about Area 2? Any projects?
Area 2 has been able to maintain many of their projects. One signature event for the Rotary Club of Woodstock has been the Santa Express, and that's providing meals, toys, and coats for kids, which we were able to continue to do this past Christmas. It was certainly modified from the past. In the past, we'd have 125, 130 community people join us and put all of this together and help deliver it. But we still were able to serve right around 150 families this past Christmas. And then, as Brian was talking about at Easter time, the Rotary Club of Newmarket was able to sponsor an Easter egg hunt at the Newmarket Park in conjunction with the Stonewall Jackson High School Interact Club. Interact is the high school level of Rotary, and those students were involved in stuffing the eggs, hiding the eggs at the New Market Park, so the kids could enjoy that.
Wow. I tell you guys, it does, you think about, there are a lot of needs out there, and it makes me feel good that Rotary is out there in our community here in Shenandoah County and Woodstock and throughout the region, and I appreciate those stories of those projects. Now, I tell people in my club, Brian, and I've said this many times in the Woodstock Rotary Club, that Rotary doesn't limit you. You would limit yourself, because not only there are opportunities like you guys have spoken to us about in local community projects, but there are also international projects that are being conducted all through the district and, quite frankly, all through the world. I mean, I know you mentioned the friends that you've made throughout the world. And I guess, are you aware of any global projects that Area 1 is connected to right now?
Right. One international project that our club is linked to, and we have been for some time, has been with a school in Rio de Janeiro, which is, for lack of better words, so that everyone truly understands, and I hate to use the word, but it's in the slums of Rio de Janeiro. It's in a very, very poor area, a very crime-ridden area. And the way the connection was made was that one of our Rotarians just happened to be traveling in this area, met an individual who was an educator, told them about the school that they created and how they were desperate for money and for funds to be able to give the children within this area an option of education and learning and not crime and violence.
Right.
And our club has continually made financial contributions to this organization, to the school, Project Wary in Rio de Janeiro, but by fundraising. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we really couldn't do the majority of the fundraising that we would in a normal year. So our club, being dedicated to this, we're just kind of like, yes, there's need here in our area and things going on with COVID, and we will serve the people of this community. But these children in this area really do need our help now, probably more than ever. And so we made it a point for our club to still make sure that we were going to support this school in Rio de Janeiro.
All right. Well, I tell you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the signature project of Rotary and Rotary International is Polio Plus. So I know we're all engaged in raising funds for that effort and the eradication of polio throughout the world. Steve, are there any international efforts that you want to talk about?
The Strasbourg Club has sustained, maintained a dental clinic.
In Jamaica.
Jamaica, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they continue to support that facility on an ongoing basis. One of the members of the Woodstock Club, I believe it's Ghana, where he goes to help with sustainable farming efforts. And part of that has another side to it. It helps reduction of the rainforest. So they are learning how to produce sustainable crops over time without destroying the rainforest.
I know I actually got to visit the dental clinic, got to go down there for a week, my daughter and I and wife, and got to help out. I mean, I'm not a dentist, or I'm not a dental hygienist by any means, but again, I tell you, it's what I said before. You only limit yourself, and the whole family was able to go down and help out with that. So it was a really nice experience.
Exactly. It's one of the wonderful things about these projects. You don't have to be a dentist. You don't have to be a doctor. There's still a lot that you can do to help with these various activities. Schools, dams, water purification, all of that goes on around the world through the efforts of Rotary.
Mm-hmm. And Brian, before I forget, there was a unique project, I forget if it was Front Royal or Warren County, where they were raising money for Polio Plus. It was I can't think of, when I was district governor, I went up there and they had just this laundry list of projects that they were doing. It was Brett Herbeck was the club president, I believe, at the time. But there was one project in particular I thought was pretty unique with the tulips. Weren't they raising money for some kind of a tulip thing where they were raising money for Polio Plus, or anything else on Polio Plus that you could think of?
Yes. That is correct. Brad Furbick, who was the former president of the Rotary Club of Front Royal,
Right.
headed that project up, and it was very much a success.
Mm-hmm.
In that, with that project, proceeds of it went to go benefit, of course, polio, but it was a sale, if you will, that went up and down the district,
Mm-hmm.
as well as even some people outside of the district even purchased.
Right.
And it was a very successful project.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff out here, a lot of good projects that we're involved in, and a lot of good people. I tell you, well, just before we leave this point, there have been so many good people that I've met throughout my time in our district and throughout Rotary International. I did want to make sure that we mentioned that. We could sit here all day and talk about projects all the way through the district and around the world. But Brian, is there anything you want to add before we go today that maybe I haven't asked or?
Well, the one thing, not that you haven't asked, but the one thing that I will just say is that when you look at Rotary and you look at what we've been able to do over the years, just not within our individual district, but within our zone and throughout the country and throughout the world, I cannot think of another service organization that has been able to touch as many lives, to serve as many people, and to truly do service above self. And so the one thing that I would just stress to your listeners is that if because of what's happened with COVID and different things that are going on, if you're an individual that wants to do service, that wants to get out there, that wants to get their hands dirty, for lack of better words, I cannot say that there's a better organization other than Rotary. There are clubs almost everywhere. You can have clubs that meet morning, lunch, and sometimes even evenings. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to give back to your community. I cannot say how much admiration and respect and even love I have for this organization, because I've seen over the years how it can change lives and make people's lives better. And so it's a wonderful organization to be a part of. And I consider every single Rotarian to be almost family. No, not almost. They are family, because we are one family in Rotary.
That is exactly right. And this started with the vision of one man, Paul Harris, in 1905 in Chicago. It has grown to over 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide, 35,000 plus clubs. It's an organization that is very, very valuable to the community, means so much to the members themselves, and you meet lifelong friends through service.
Well, guys, I really appreciate your time this morning with me. And to echo your point, Steve and Brian, yes, I do consider both of you guys family. I consider you both lifelong friends, and my life is a lot better by getting to work with you guys on these projects and be a part of what we've been talking about here today. And I want to thank you for your time. Again, today I had with me Brian Barbour, the area governor of Area 1 in our Rotary District, and Rotary District 7570, and Steve Morlan, the area governor of Area 2 for District 7570. Brian, of course, is with the Warren County Rotary Club, and Steve, of course, is in my home club, the Woodstock Rotary Club. Thank you guys for being with us, and hopefully we'll get to talk some more at some future time. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
I totally agree with that. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure and an honor to speak with you today, sir.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. And don't forget to follow me at Timothy C. Carter on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, along with full podcasts that can be found on my YouTube. Hit that subscribe button to get new show notifications of the source. And please smash that like button.